It's understandable that it took a while before community-made Danger Zone maps began rolling out, what with how large and complex they are. But in this last month, the game has received 2 more, both with similar icy themes. And that makes comparisons between the two inevitable, even if their designs are vastly different. Since they may, or may not, be featured in CSGO at some point in the future, let's take a look at them both now. The first is Arctic, designed by Michael3210. He has already made 3 for the game mode, the first of which was Jungle Tea, which Valve officially included in the game a while back. He then made Severo, which is a bit like Sirocco. And the third is Arctic, so he's already a seasoned mapper for Danger Zone. But there's a new contender, Frostbite, which came out just the other day. This one has been developed by a number of names I'm familiar with from the workshop community, their submissions having reached the finalist, or at least the runner-up, stages of the Exotic Places Map Core competition. Both of these Danger Zone maps sport cold, snowy themes. I'll be showcasing them in this video. I won't be going into the gameplay that much since it's extremely difficult to rigorously playtest a Danger Zone map, but hopefully you will get a feel for the theme of these maps. Plus, it's a great excuse for some beautiful 4K flybys. And if you ever get confused over which map's which, Arctic snow is grainy in appearance, while Frostbite snow seems thicker and whiter, and almost entirely covers most surfaces. Arctic is your standard island affair, though there are still distant hills and mountains which connect to the island at a few key points. The map's most iconic feature has to be a train track running around the edges of the playable space. At one point this goes over a bridge and through a tunnel, before ending up at the train station. I look at this map and think, yeah, this is a classic style of Danger Zone map. Had I not told you, you'd probably assume that this was a Valve-made map, since it's essentially a snowy version of Sirocco or Blacksite, done to the same level of detail and polish, and with distinct regions and features everywhere. Frostbite attempts something new by being situated, not on an island, but in a snowy valley. Rather than to have distinct regions, this feels maybe more like an actual place, with buildings dotted about, but there are still a few key landmarks to help you get your bearings. While Arctic's got a train track, Frostbite has 2 ski lifts, together spanning the length of the map. This is only decorative, but you can still explore the structures either end of them. If you've wondered why existing Danger Zone maps have all been on islands, I might have discovered the reason. Since this one's entirely surrounded by hills and trees, I wondered if this would result in problems with the drones, which just love to get bugged out on all the scenery. And sure enough, I tried ordering a weapon and never got it. Admittedly, it was a very unlucky first attempt, since most of the time they do get there, but order stuff from certain spots in the map and the drones will struggle to reach you. This is a known issue with the map, so here's hoping that they can find a fix for it. That and the radar overview not working, among other things, so I'm confident this will be fixed at some point. You can enter pretty much every building in Arctic, even if bits of them may still be out of bounds, and the game does an excellent job of indicating which bits are accessible. Inside, Arctic's buildings feel abandoned and empty. Most windows are missing, and most buildings are nothing more than a load of boxes and a few items of furniture. Michael has closely followed the way that Valve built their own levels in this regard, and you do get factories, shops and construction sites which feel extremely similar to the ones seen in existing Danger Zone maps. The buildings' interiors in Frostbite are more diverse. The shops feel like they're still in business, and most standard houses have unique feeling interiors. They're still sparsely decorated, but some are quite appealingly designed, and there were some that seemed a bit pointless because they only had one apparent entrance. And there are many buildings that you can't enter at all, and I didn't find any hard and fast rule to know which I could and couldn't enter. Some doorways looked like I couldn't open them, but I could, while others I thought I could, but couldn't. Some windows are boarded up, but turn the corner and you'll find a way leading into the building anyway. Maybe this is the price you have to pay for interiors which feel less copy-pasted than maybe Arctic's do. But it does mean that you'll need to play more of Frostbite before you begin to learn the ins and outs of this map's ins and outs. Both maps have similar underground areas that you can enter from the bottom into a cave and then progress up into a building complex until you finally arrive out at the surface. This network in Arctic covers a lot of vertical space. I felt I was deep underground but was never far from an opening to show me that I was still above the surface. Arctic's polished ice cave I feel is, ironically, the least polished looking bit of the map. Tunnels are not easy to map for in the source engine, and it's easy to spot where surfaces have been subdivided, and where they haven't been subdivided enough. Frostbite's underground network is an absolute maze. The lowest level is a series of dark, scary caves. It's really dark down there. and I wonder how good it will be for visibility. I commend the sound design though, since the gunshot echoes sound awesome. These caves lead to a complex. It goes on and on. So once you're in here, expect to be in there for a while, appreciating the nice echoes or whatever. I don't want you coming away from this video thinking that I think one of these maps is better than the other. I have observed and I have explored, and I think that Arctic is the prettier of the two, but I am not in a position to judge their gameplay, and if I'm honest, I don't know who is. When making this video, I had some time to think about mapping, and I realised that designing for Danger Zone is almost the exact opposite of making a diffuse map. With a traditional CSGO level, it's about fine-tuning a series of corridors that you'll run down 1,000 times in an almost identical way. A diffuse map works because, as a player, you learn what to expect every time you play that level. You perfect your approach to an area, you memorise new grenades that you can rely on to counter a specific enemy action. Its key to success is in its predictability and familiarity, and if I'm brutally honest, I'd say that's why old maps are so popular and why it's so hard for a new map to break into the game. Mapping for Danger Zone, on the other hand, is absolutely nothing like mapping for diffuse. The entire Danger Zone game mode is based around random mechanics. Your spawns are different, the way zones close in and where they close in every time is also different. The weapons and equipment you get every time is different. One map will pan out in so many different ways that there is no planning for that when mapping for it. I really think your best bet is to build a map and to hope for the best, and you'll only know how well it plays following a huge amount of playtesting. Both of these maps have gone about this, perhaps successfully, in different ways. Arctic plays it safe by repeating what has already worked for the game mode. It perfectly imitates the style of Valve's own Danger Zone levels. And why shouldn't it? It's tried and tested, it works, and the game mode's appeal is in the random mechanics beyond the mapper's control anyway, so imitating existing maps doesn't mean that it'll feel stale to play. I think keeping the game mode fresh could be as simple as changing the theme of the map once in a while, which is something an ice map will do. Frostbite doesn't copy Valve's formula so rigidly. In my opinion, it feels more like a PUBG map, where not all places are created equally. It sports large open areas with very little cover. It has others where you have no choice but to follow a set path for a while. And it contains some rooms and areas which are, effectively, dead ends. These all seem like things that Valve's and Michael's maps go to great lengths to avoid doing. I guess in a diffuse map you quickly learn to avoid places like these, but in Danger Zone, when the spawns and endpoints are random, you may be forced from time to time to traverse these places, or may even be able to get the jump on other people who are forced there themselves. It makes Frostbite feel more like a real place, rather than to be a series of corridors disguised as buildings. It also seems a bit like different elements of the map are disconnected from each other, as though different mappers worked on different areas and then merged their creation together, resulting in inconsistencies. You can see this especially on the snowy rooftops. Some are very neatly done, others are messy, and other buildings don't have any snow on them at all. And I guess Arctic also does this in places, but I never found it was quite so obvious or distracting, in part because this map doesn't have such a thick layer of snow cover in the first place. So it was just little things like the roofs, and the fact that there were drone problems, which made me feel like what we're seeing here is the end of phase 1 of this map's development. And now they've managed to connect it all up into one map file, they've released it to the public as they turn their focus to playtesting and polishing. As far as I'm concerned, they've already gotten the hardest bit out of the way, and that's developing a good looking map on this scale and getting it to work in the source engine. From here on, it's onwards and upwards. And they've certainly got the manpower to achieve it. I think the conclusion here is very simple. Which map you'll prefer depends on what you want from a Danger Zone map. If you like the game mode already, then you'll also like Arctic. It essentially provides the same gameplay as existing maps but with a different theme. But if you're looking for something different and are willing to give Danger Zone a chance, then Frostbite might be more your kind of thing. I think if one of these is chosen to be officially featured in the game, it'll show what Valve is looking for. Whether they're looking to innovate on the game mode or if they feel it just works as it is and are simply looking for new layouts to freshen it up. Either way, it's new content for the game, and either of these maps is potentially good enough to be featured, provided Frostbite's drone pathfinding is fixed.